Welcome to another edition of Tell It Like It Is TV. I'm your host. I'm the Reverend Dr. Leonard Small. I'm the pastor of the Litway Missionary Baptist Church located at 2335 Shell Road in the Thunderbolt community. We bring you this show in hopes of enlightening our community because we believe that the best results in public interaction comes from an informed populace. That is, when people know what's going on around them, they will make the decisions collectively that's in their better interest. Even now, as we come on, I want you to look back at a few things that have occurred over the last year or so, particularly in the national arena. Do you realize that no one now is talking about anything to do with a raise in the minimum wage? When was the last time you heard anything about a fair wage coming out of anybody's mouth who's been elected to Congress, Democrat or Republican? Once Bernie Sanders was out of the race, and ultimately Hillary Clinton, who said take it to $10, we haven't brought up that subject again. So basically it appears that 4 years from now, grown-ups will be working for $7.75, $7.35, less than $8 an hour on regular jobs, trying to feed their families. And that is tragic. That's unfair. Now, at the same time, the people who are elected are busy saying, we've got to make sure that we reduce the amount of money corporations pay. I got a news flash for you, sweetheart. Once you get to corporations that make more than $10 million, more than 40% of them never pay a dime in taxes. They only function in loopholes, depreciation, and other dodges that keep them from paying any taxes. Secondly, the statement is, well, if we don't give the people who make the jobs and start the industries more of their money back, that they will then make for better employment. First of all, whether folk like it or not, by the time Barack Obama stopped being the president, we were at what is called full employment. Once you get to less than 5%, you're generally at what is called in America full employment. And it's gone down to as low as 4.3%, with, of course, the Trump administration taking credit for it. But you've got to understand, for 7 years of the 8 years that Barack Obama was president, we had an increase in employment every month. Every month for 7 years. Now, that trend has continued. But why would they need, quote unquote, need to lower the tax rate on corporations? There is more money on the sidelines now than has ever been in the history of this nation. That's just a fact. The rich have gotten richer. The people with money and means, they're doing better than ever before. Now, I'm not saying that I'm rich like they are, but I'm telling you, people with money and means, including myself, have done extraordinarily well. Because, of course, we have investments and businesses that are actually yielding great profits. So here's the deal. So why would they want to do this? They want to do this because they're greedy. Plain and simple. They are greedy. They don't care about the deficit. If you notice, they're talking about reducing taxes on corporations, but you've never heard them say anything about a deficit because it's going to blow the deficit up, and they don't care. They only cared about it when Barack Obama was the president. Now, we're going to, we know it's going to be a increase at first, but then it's going to stabilize. No, it's not. Because they're running the same trickle-down thought that they ran when Reagan was the president, and then when Bush was the president, and ran this economy into a ditch. They're about to run the same play again. When Clinton stopped being the president, we had a $6 billion, I'm wrong, a $600 billion surplus his last year. I want you to hear this. For the first time since Kennedy was president in the 50s and 60s, we had a $600 billion surplus. And the Republicans got in office and said, well, we need to return some of that money back to the taxpayers. And they did. And by the time they were finished, the country was upside down and backwards. We almost had the worst financial crisis in our history. It was the worst downturn in the economy since the Great Depression in the 1920s. And there was strange about it. Most of the people who are in Congress now are the same people who were in Congress then. And all of the leaders are the same people. And they're getting ready to run the same play. They're not saying that rich people aren't rich already. They're saying they're going to get them richer. They're not saying they don't have enough money to do whatever they want to do. They're saying they're just going to give them a bunch of money back. So here's the deal. We're being had. I want you to ask, when you get a chance, those of you who are listening to this broadcast, ask Buddy Carter what he thinks. He's our congressman from this district. Ask Buddy Carter, would he support a minimum wage of $10 an hour? Just ask him the question. Because trying to get people to live off $350 a week before taxes in 2017 is cruel and unusual punishment. It's really that simple. On a local level, I want to chime in on something that we argued about 20-some years ago. 20-some years ago, the county and the city got together and decided to form the Savannah Metropolitan Police Department. They joined the police department for the unincorporated area with the city of Savannah. At the time, I argued, and still will argue, that the demographics of the unincorporated area and the demographics of the city of Savannah would mean that if you join the two together, that the people in the unincorporated areas would not be served because of the level of crime in the city of Savannah. The demographics of the two geographical groups are so different that it absolutely made no sense. But here's the deal. Most of us are asleep concerning what our government does or the reasons they do it. That was a precursor for trying to combine the county and the city. So if you combine services, sooner or later you can combine governments. That's where they were going with that. But even at that, they knew that the people in the county wouldn't vote for it. But at the same time, I'm going to ask this great audience of mine, have you seen a city map for the city of Savannah? You know how the state map looked. Everybody knows how the state map looked. You know the shape of South Carolina. You know the shape of Florida. You know the shape of Alabama. We know these things. We know that those of you who know anything about geography know that the state of Missouri is kind of shaped like the state of Georgia, even though it's in the middle of the country. But here's what you don't know. When you're putting together a city in the state of Georgia, it's not against the law, but you're supposed to be prohibited from setting up a city government that has islands. In other words, geographic areas that don't touch. Okay? I challenge anybody to go and look at the city map of Savannah. Now, one of the things my great producer is going to try to do is I'm going to try to get a shot of the city map of Savannah so that people will actually see. Because a lot of you have noticed, you be riding someplace and you say Garden City, then you see City of Savannah, then you see Port Worth, Wentworth, then you see City of Savannah again, and you're wondering, well, how does this link up? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. As a matter of fact, I believe, and we're doing a study now, and this is what I call bad government, basically because it's slick. A lot of people who live in the Port Wentworth area woke up in the city of Savannah. All of a sudden, they were in the city of Savannah. This was a trade-off between the city of Savannah and then Port Wentworth Mayor Buddy Carter, who is now the congressman. And so, under the law of the state of Georgia, if there are 500 people in a geographic district, if there are 500 people, then it has to be a referendum. They have to vote on it. They have to vote to be either included or excluded from a city. As a matter of fact, it used to be that both groups, the city people had to vote them in, and they had to vote to come in. That's how it was at one point in time. We're still studying to see if that applies. But we do know emphatically, based on the record, based on reading the law, we do know that if it's got 500 people in a geographic area, they can't simply be put into the city by an act of the legislature. That's what's been happening. That's what's happened in the city of Savannah too many times. Now, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to believe me. Get a map of the city of Savannah, and you see there are at least 6, maybe 7 islands involved. I'll give you an easy way to tell. You know that Garden City is on Highway 21. You also know that Garden City is on Highway 17, Ogeechee Road. Now, you may know that if you go out Ogeechee Road beyond Highway 17, you run into another part of the city of Savannah. So if Garden City is here, and Garden City is here, and the city is here, and Savannah's here, how does this part get to be city over on the other side of Garden City? I'm glad you asked. At first, they used a railroad track between the two halves of the Garden City. One railroad track straight through Garden City. So you'd be riding out the highway. When you come to the railroad track, it says City of Savannah. When you get across the railroad track, it says Garden City. But I want everybody who's from here to think about this. Garden City is where it always was, on Highway 21. Garden City is on Highway 17. City of Savannah is where it was. City of Savannah is on the other side of Garden City. How could this be? No, I mean, you don't have to believe it. I'm just saying what I'm saying. But someone decided to do that. They did it surreptitiously. And a lot of you people woke up in the city of Savannah. So the question is, now that you're in the city of Savannah, and they probably did it wrong, what can you do about it? Well, it would seem to me that if I was put in the city wrong, and the city's been taxing me all these years, I'd want my money back. That's the first thing. I'm just saying what I'm saying. Now, I'm not in that target area. I simply know that I don't like things being done that are outside of the law. I'm a person that I like rules. I like to go by the rules. I like to go by the Bible, the words in the Bible. I teach scripture and Bible studies basically all over the planet. Getting ready to go in a little while back to West Africa to teach clergy. If I believe in the word and I believe in the letter of the law, and if I love the United States of America, which I do, and people who go in foreign countries generally get a great appreciation for America. So I like rules. I like it to be done the way it's written on the books. That's just the way it is. That's what's been our salvation in America, particularly for the African American community, because men who had slaves wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." And while they, in their minds, may not have been considering us men at the time because they had slaves, nevertheless, what they wrote is what they've had to go by. And therefore, we're not slaves anymore. And therefore, I'm free to even stand up and pledge allegiance, which I do, or to kneel down, which I support others do. I think that you have a right in America to free speech, and the football players kneeling is a form of speech. They're saying something's wrong, we need to fix it. They're saying it nonviolent. They're saying it without hurting anybody or throwing rocks or running over people like they did in Charlottesville. It's called nonviolent civil disobedience. And last time I checked, that was what we were supposed to like. Over and above that, on Tell It Like It Is, we like to deal with things on a national, international, and then of course a local basis. A little over 2 years ago, maybe 2 years and a few months ago, a friend of mine's son was murdered. Leonard Lawrence Bryant. His son was Lawrence Bryant the fourth. And the young man who was killed had a son, Lawrence Bryant the fifth. Lawrence Bryant the third's mother worked with my mother in a beauty shop. She actually wrote letters to the parole board to help get me out of prison. I didn't know they had those letters until Lawrence surprised me one night and read a letter in our meeting for Redirect Savannah. That was a couple of years ago when we did that program. We have since probably bought 100, a little over 100, and maybe 120 even, TWIC cards for young people. We've only had 2 people who went through our program and our training, 2 to go back to jail for anything. One for probation violation and the other for some petty crime, but both of them are out. My point being is, if you give a person a way and a means to earn a reasonable living, you can reduce the amount of crime in this city. I gave this proposal to then fairly new chief of police when he first got here. I told him he would not be able to help me and promote it with me. I just was going to make him aware of it because of politics. He's a political appointee, and the powers that be really don't want me getting credit for doing anything. I understand that. I'm an activist. It's what I do. Nevertheless, we were blessed, and we can do some of that program ourselves without any help from anybody, and we did. So basically, the cards cost like $125 or thereabouts, and when you do about 120 of them, you're talking about $14,000–15,000. That is an effective amount of people to help, believe it or not. People say, well, but that's such a small scale. 100 lives changed is 100 families changed, okay? Which can compute into being maybe 1,000 people affected. Having said that, what would happen if the same city that hired a director to try to reduce crime at the time and have kept directors in this crime reduction slot for the last 2.5 years, who, to my knowledge, haven't done anything, aren't doing anything. I mean, literally haven't changed the outcome one iota. If anything, as I told the chief at the time, we're in worse shape now than we were then. So, I was fortunate enough to meet with some of the ministers recently, and they seem to sincerely want to work and do some things and affect people. They had some marches before, so obviously the ministers care. But now we're going to actually try to do some practical applications. We're going to seek to try to take people off the streets, off jobs, and put them on better jobs. A TWIC card, it's a Transportation Workers Identification Card. It is issued by the federal government and allows people to go into the port areas. The port areas in Savannah are secure areas. But here's the difference. You can work for, and these are not bad jobs. Any decent, fair, legal job is a good job. So I'm not being against these jobs. But you can work at Burger King or McDonald's or whatever, and I'm not discriminating against the restaurants, or any restaurant, and make $7, $8, even $9 an hour. But you take that same person with the same amount of education, whether they got a high school diploma or not, put them in one of the warehouses on the Georgia ports with a TWIC card, they'll make $12 minimum. $12 minimum at 40 hours is $480 a week. That changes their trajectory. And don't let them get to $16 to $18 an hour. They will protect themselves from going to jail in order to keep the job. How do you know? Because I've been doing this for years. We know how it works. The program I started, called Resurrection House Ministries, helped people get off poverty and on jobs. It's really that simple. I helped young men and women who had been in trouble on drugs, coming out of jail, get jobs, save money. Once they learn how to have money, they start wanting to have money, start wanting to make sure that they weren't broke anymore. Because you can get addicted to good living. And so, in all the years that we've had Resurrection House Ministry, and we did it as an in-house program for more than 20 years, we've never had anybody commit a major crime. Ever. Did I say ever? Ever. And in the process of time, we probably returned in excess of 500 children back to their natural parents, away from foster care, other family care, and other things. I did not see that coming, but that's a part of what's going on. Had one young man in church today whose mother went through that program. And he got in trouble and all, but he remembered who loved him. And he came home from prison and got with us, and now he's a successful young man. And I can almost tell you can't guarantee emphatically 100% that a person won't go back to jail, but his chances of getting back in trouble are slim and none, because he came home with skills and he's making good money. Got married, buying a house. It's the American dream. We can do this over and over and over. This is what we can do. This is not pie in the sky. This is not hypothetical. This is not working on a wish list. Contrary to popular opinion, this is not even positive thinking. Okay? This is reality. First of all, I know it might sound strange to people, I don't do positive or negative thinking. I'm not an optimist or a pessimist. I'm a realist. Call them like I see them. And work what's in front of me. That's what I've always done. And God's blessed us. Now, so what is the solution? The solution is simple. Over the next few months, we're going to be working with various ministers from various denominations, from various parts of the city. We're coming together, and you're going to see this effort. I'm not the head of it. I'm just a part of it. You're going to see this effort, and our goal is to reduce the rate of crime in Savannah. Plain and simple. In that process, we're going to help people get on their feet. One of the things I need to make sure a lot of you, and this is male or female, because we bought TWIC cards for male, female, black, white, Hispanic, all kind of people. If they needed it, they came, they got a little bit of counseling, 2 or 3 hours, basically on money and having money and buying and selling skills. But here's the deal. We give them a little bit of counseling, we get them the TWIC cards, we let them go. Lastly, I want you to understand this. Even though I'm getting with the ministers and I'm hoping that the city will buy into it and help them do it at scale. In other words, people like me, we can spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 even without being unreasonably harmed. That's true. Won't change our lifestyle. And I don't want to do it, but God's blessed us. But here's the thing. The city will pay one person $100,000 to simply say they're in charge of this with no result. Why not give the ministers IMA, Baptist Ministers Union, same amount of money, and we then could go in our community, find the best and brightest, and take them from welfare to taxpayers. Take the liabilities, turn them into assets. Now, lastly, I'm successful because I cheat. If a person is not about anything, if a person not trying, I'm not trying with them. If they don't care, I'm not going to care. But if I see a guy, like a young man I met the other day, if I see a guy who came out of prison 2 years ago, and he's on a deadbeat job washing dishes, and I know I can get him a TWIC card that'll take him from $7.50 an hour, $7.75 an hour, to $12 an hour, and he's been working that sorry job, I know he'll work a good one for money. I'll buy him a TWIC card and don't worry about it. And if I don't have enough money one day, I'll get some money from my friends. Maybe I'll get some from you. But whatever it takes, we need to fix our community. My name is Leonard Small, and I've been bought with a price, paid on Golgotha's Hill by Jesus, the Son of God. And because of that, I will live to help my brothers be free. And I will consistently tell it like it is.